Hello everyone. This video is going to be very different from some videos I've done before on Panzer Corps. Bakata had asked me a while ago if I would consider compiling a list of discoveries from various people and talk, in depth about um, how these tactics work, or maybe just having like a list of advanced tactical ideas stored somewhere. So this is like a work in progress. It's not even close to finished. Presentations, like good visual presentations, are not a strength of mine. Um, on the data team that I work on, I'm mostly the guy. I do a lot of mathematical things and I solve data problems. But when it comes to final presentation, I mean, I can research things on that, but it's not like my area of knowledge. It's not something I'm particularly good at. So the format of the document's probably not very good. So what I plan on doing is I'm going to do this video and I am going to see if I can fit the entire document into the description. And if somebody wants to take this and reformat this and make it much better, I'm all for it. There's also probably errors in this document. I don't know how good my memory is good, but I don't know if it's 100%. It's not 100% accurate. So I'm going to say some things in here that are probably not accurate. But the gist of it is I have a list of tactics. I'm actually applying some acronyms to many of them. I don't know. It seems like a pedagogical thing to do. I'm totally open to renaming things or making modifications to the text. But what I wanted to do was have a name and describe what it does, and then eventually I would like to add in references to where you can see an example of this tactic. Um, Preferably a really good example, but the original could work too. I Some of these I don't have a name assigned to them because probably these tactics are common. But if you do happen to know who originally displayed this tactic, even if it's on an AARP forum, or not a forum, but if it's on a forum somewhere, I'm perfectly willing to give that person credit. But I'm mostly thinking about YouTubers. But I know there's a bunch of people that are experts at this game that don't show YouTube videos. So to give you an idea how this works, I'll start with the first one. I call this tactic the aggressive Stug. So this is the idea of what a lot of people use Stugs for is to defend armored units that are advancing. But Deductor was the first person I ever saw that would advance a Stug to use its artillery round, and then you would help destroy a unit, and then that gap where the Stug is vulnerable to attack, you'd have an armored unit fill in that gap. And this is an advanced Stug tactic. I don't see it too much. I think I'm the only YouTuber that uses this a ton, and the only reason I use this a ton is because of Deductor. The reason I think a lot of people don't use it is it's extremely delicate. So if you make a move with your Stug to kill a unit and you don't kill the unit or force it back, it means that your Stug is vulnerable, because it means that you can't like fill in the hole with an armored unit. But if you really know what you're doing, you'll make it work. And in my opinion, with a lot of Panzer Corps players, this was a major weakness with their Stug use. And for some people, they don't even use Stugs. Soren doesn't use Stugs. I don't know if that would change on Manstein. He doesn't. He's not a big fan of range 1 artillery units for obvious reasons. But for sure, if you're playing with an historic core, you're going to have a couple of Stugs in your core. And I don't think you're having a good time if you're not trying this tactic. And I have, like, what am I referencing for this? Go watch Deductor's videos from 1940 to 42. And he has some of the best use of Stugs you'll ever see in Panzer Corps. I have sometimes touched upon the brilliance of it in my playthroughs, but I've never mastered it the way he has. And he's using his mod, which is why he gets a weaker form of the Stug 2B. He calls it the Stug 2A, and he buys one in the middle of 1940, and he starts using them. and I think he's just really, really good at using these types of tactics. Next up, SMAT is my acronym: Suicidal Mobile AA Traps. This is my invention. I have never seen anyone use this tactic before me, and as far as I know, I might be the only person that's ever used this. I can't recall off the top of my head anyone else doing this. A lot of the top level players are extremely wary of this tactic, but I think they're totally mistaken. And this is, if you're developing your mobile AA, one of the biggest hindrances to developing them is experience, because their combat opportunities are fairly limited in the early war. So the solution to this problem is I put AA units in vulnerable positions backed up by artillery, and then this draws out an infantry unit typically, and you get combat that way. And it's a great way to you can get, especially if you don't have field marshal in place. The experience you can get from this is much higher than killing air units. So especially in the early war, when mobile AA misses like way too much, I would recommend using this tactic. And on ultimate mode, it's absolutely essential to quickly develop experience on AA units. So it's part of the reason I have fewer issues with AA units than other players on ultimate mode, because I'm creative. There's no level I won't sink to gain experience, because I often emphasize the importance of fighting the field marshal effect, which I think a lot of players underestimate. I think if you just play in field marshal with no other restrictions, you're not going to really see what the big deal is, because you're just going to elite replace all the time. You don't care if you get into nasty fights, you just elite replace on the battlefield. But if you play on ultimate mode, it really, I think the field marshal effect is deceptive in how it creeps up on you. So that's why I put a lot of emphasis on spreading experience around on units and doing anything and everything to get experience on hard to get experience on units. And I think my example I put here was, I did this at Narvik on ultimate mode in Reims. I had a great, I used this on Reims turn 1 that I just posted, and it was quite effective. When you have double artillery against a tank, it's really good because you suppress the tank, but usually you don't completely suppress the tank. So then the 7-1 gun gets into the combat from a very favorable position. Our next tactical thing is the double artillery traps, DAP. I don't know if Ricotta is the first one to do this. That's the name that comes to mind. I don't know if Robbie Plays Strategy Games used this. I don't think so. But the only person I could think of that used this first was Ricotta. I don't remember Deductor doing this, but I might be wrong, so you can correct me on that. So the basic idea is you're just going to offer a vulnerable unit. My favorite, pretty much guaranteed way to make this work is to put an 88 gun in a truck in the forest hex. It seems to be a pretty unstoppable magnet for attracting local units. And if you put 2 pieces of artillery behind that 88 gun, the infantry are really not going to have a good time. You can also do this trick with anti-tank. I think I display this. I think Ricotta invented this, but Richard displayed this. I should put that here. Richard showed this at Calais with Panzerjäger twice in a forest. Ultimate mode, I should say. Showed this at Calais ultimate mode. With a Panzerjäger in the forest. As you can see, this is like a document I'm developing, so I'll be typing as I talk. Ricotta invented this, I think. So yeah, I showed a great example of that at Calais. It works twice. There's a lot of examples. If you watch Ricotta, pretty much, he might have even shown it at Poznan on ultimate mode. He's a big fan of daft tactics on ultimate mode. I would argue the mode is completely unplayable if you don't do this. I'm just gonna confidently state that. So if you're ever thinking about doing ultimate mode, you gotta master this. It's now second nature to Goose, me, and Bricata to do this, but you can use this on other modes. It's very effective. MHT, Major Hex Trap. So this one is take an objective, then pull back to set up favorable combat odds when AI attacks. Yeah, I don't know when I saw this the first time. It might be Deductor. I feel like he did this at Piatek. Deductor, C, Piatek. I think he might have done it at Piatek, but I can't remember because Picata also did it at Piatek with the Scout. But I'm saving that as a different tactic later. This is slightly different. This is a slower tactic. Sometimes you don't have a Scout, so what I do, I actually use this tactic all the time in Ultimate Mode. I'll take a Hex, but I don't have multi-move option most of the time, and then the next turn I pull back and set up favorable attacks. It's extremely strong. I think I used this Richard at Dijon Ultimate Mode. So I used this there on one of the hexes, and my mountain unit with a defense +3 completely wrecked the tank, which is not something you would expect. But and I didn't even have artillery protection. Did I even mention that? This works well. This works well because AI units must attack after grabbing control of a major hex. So that's why it's so effective. You just set up these really strong attacks that work on the AI's turn. And I use this all the time on ultimate mode because you need to have a way to accelerate the collapse of the enemy units because you're running out of time. MHE, Major Hex Evacuation. Oh yeah, the idea here is you offer such tempting bait that the AI can't ignore it. And this can cause a unit to leave a major hex to attack. But the important caveat to this, there must be another unit that can take over the hex if it leaves. If not, you can do whatever you want 2 hexes away from the major unit hex, or that major hex with a unit in it, and they won't attack. I did this, I didn't invent this, but I don't know an example off the top of my head from Goose. But Richard showed this at Reims Ultimate Mode, where my 7-1 gun was by the Reims hex, and the Pioneer could obviously see it, and it came out and attacked me, which gave me some valuable experience. The 3 S's, this is Goose's. Oh, Goose, by the way, is the one. I think he showed it at Katerina Pass. Is that the way he said it? Double Africa Corps. Kasarina Pass? I don't remember what. I know it's a famous battle, and I don't remember the name. But I think he showed it, like, he kind of shocked me. He got a decisive victory, I think, and he just offered a unit to the Pioneer, or maybe it was heavy weapons, and it came out on the final turn, so Goose could easily take a major hack. So there's lots of ways you can use this. I accidentally used this at Reims to gain experience on my 7-1 gun. You know, so there's lots of ways you can use this. 3 S's. This one I've talked about at length before. Suppressor on Surrender. It's Goose's invention. I mean, watch like any scenario. Watch any scenario by Goose. At this point, you could watch Bricata, you could watch Soren, you could watch Robbie play strategy games, you could watch myself, and we're going to be using this tactic, but Goose gets the credit for uh, just perfecting it, especially Africa Corps. I don't think I have ever seen Africa Corps dismantled. It's such a strong level as when Goose did his double Rommel playthrough. And the key to how he had so much success was the three S's. It was just like it's kind of awe-inspiring to see him pull this crap out of his ass. Like he looks at what's going on in the map, and it's like he almost intuitively knows 6 moves ahead of time. I'm going to 3S this group of units. I'm going to gain a lot of prestige. It's a great way to remove obstacles. So especially if you're playing on ultimate mode, sometimes the fastest way to get rid of a unit isn't to kill it outright. It's just to force it to surrender. So it's like you're not going to have success in ultimate mode unless you're using this tactic all the time. Ultimate mode is going to require most of these tactics a lot. Overstrength, artillery, yeah, OT. Yeah, I mean, this is self-explanatory. I think that on higher difficulties, probably Guderian, Manstein, and ultimate mode especially, you should just overstrengthen your artillery. And the big reason for that is so you get higher kill chances to reduce the pushback from an enemy, and this reduces RNG. If you get a lot more suppression than when you're attacking, even in semi-risky positions, even if the enemy is mostly suppressed, a rugged defense is not as devastating. So I think Robbie Play Strategy Games was the first player I saw that emphasized this. Robbie Play Strategy Games. He was hardcore about it. I can pretty much watch anything by him. I think he was the first one I just saw him just do this over and over and over again. Now, to be fair to Goose, he obviously has been using this before, but I don't remember him emphasizing it much. And I think Robbie's older. I would have to look, but I think he was posting Panzer Corps videos before Goose. So maybe on the forums, Goose did this, but I just remember being shocked at how effective this was from Robbie. It's absolutely essential for ultimate mode. You have to find some way to reduce the RNG because the RNG is not your friend. Manstein as well. The RNG is going to screw you, guaranteed. So overstrengthen your artillery and reduce the RNG factor. Force surrenders on tanks next to swamp hexes. The first time I saw this was Bricata, and I should say C. Calais, ultimate mode. It might have been on his Rommel, but I remember it explicitly at Calais. So there's some tanks, I think they don't have the ability to go into swamps, and this can show up in Africa Corps at times, I think. And Bricata showed it at Calais, and he just easily dispatched a really annoying tank because he suppressed it, used the 3S's, and then you would just attack it, and he can't retreat because you surrounded him, and you have an open swamp hex that the tank can't retreat to. So you can use this tactic. I think I did use this. I think Soren and I both used this on we both used this at Calais. It's pretty essential a turn 2 move. PT pylon. This one kind of is what it means. So let the enemy pile up in front of you, and then you can 3S them to death. And Soren isn't like the first person to show this. I don't really have a name for this. I'm sure this existed since the beginning. But Soren is absolutely the best. He has mastered the pile-on tactic. He has mastered it to such an extent that it's awe-inspiring. And I highly recommend see his Rommel playthrough to watch the pile-on madness at the highest level. I don't think Bricata, Goose, and I have ever reached the level that Soren displays on his Rommel playthrough. Uh, as he, I think as he puts it, like you just have to kill units as fast as possible, especially when you start getting into 1943, because you don't have time to fuck around. You just gotta kill, kill, kill. I have no idea what's gonna happen on his Mancine playthrough. He's gonna have overstrength and 5-star units, so maybe it in practice won't matter much, but I don't know. We'll see. Um, AIT, auxiliary infantry traps. Oh yeah. Um, yeah. So you offer the enemy weak ox units to attack. The best example of this, Deductor C Stalingrad. Um, I think Deductor should be talked about like just so much more than he is. I have never seen Stalingrad so creatively dismantled the way Deductor showed it. And the key part of this is he took those Italian units and he found these brilliant creative ways to pull the units out. And what's interesting about Deductor compared to Soren is that Deductor doesn't have things memorized, and he had to like intuitively feel how to do this, and it's quite masterful to watch. Watch Soren for perfection of this idea, but I think Deductor deserves credit for it. I remember, to this day, his Stalingrad playthrough or his Stalingrad scenarios are so absurdly good that it's like I'm never going to be at that level. I think Soren himself, if he were to watch the Doctor play, it's going to look sloppy, a little rough. There's some tricks that he's not using, but this using auxiliary infantry units as traps to pull out units, it was done so creatively that you have to give Deductor credit for this. And he does it at Stalingrad docks as well. Okay, but you could use this in other ways. Like I use this for convenience. how to phrase this? Watch Richard use Ox infantry infantry as cannon fodder. uh, I I I like using auxiliary units to absorb blows, and you can sometimes pull tanks out. And the trap is that I pulled the tank out, and now I can bomb it. So let's say a tank is protected by an AA gun. I offer the auxiliary infantry unit on an open hex. Tank can't resist. It comes out. It's out of range of the AA unit, and then I kill it with my tactical bombers. So that's a variant of it. Is that misspelled? Yeah. Apparently I can't spell. Okay. Where was I? Fighter traps. Yeah, there's multiple variants of this. Nobody gets the credit for this, I don't think. Deductor probably before anyone else, but I have to imagine that he wasn't the first person to think of it. Multiple variants. One can know the path that a plane is taking and set a fire in the way for an unexpected encounter. And then I invented the fighter bomber variant of this, and you can see it. I think I showed it ultimate mode second attempt. Richard has great displays of this tactic in his ultimate mode second attempt at Poznan and Narvik, I'm pretty sure. And his latest attempt to do this at Narvik. He does this. So I like the fighter bomber trick. I discovered it at Poznan on ultimate mode, I think. A lot of people just use the fighter to like block the bomber going south to attack your units, but the fighter bomber trick's more effective because you're going to do more damage. And on Manstein and or ultimate mode, you can use that trick. However, if you watch my latest attempt, I don't recommend doing that because there's bigger fish to fry. There's better ways to take care of the bomber. So more traditional fighter traps just entail placing a fighter adjacent to a vulnerable unit outside of AI vision range. And because it's a juicy, big value unit, the planes come out to attack, but then they get ambushed essentially by your fighter. And if you put an AA unit next to the vulnerable unit, it can often just wipe out the plane. But why do I have that self-capitalized? And his latest ultimate mode attempt. Then we have the CFT, the chain fighter trap. This is high level stuff. Fighter traps, as my millennial generation would say, that's for noobs, right? Everybody knows about fighter traps, even though there are very sophisticated variants of it, like the fighter bomber trap that you can use. Actually, Soren shows this. Soren shows this at Mablige. Is that how you spell it? Like that? Manstein. So I was really pleased to see it because I think until that moment I was the only one to ever use it that I'm aware of. And to see him use that trap made me feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside because he was aware of that trap because I showed it I showed it multiple times actually. And it's a sign of creative use of your planes to kind of accelerate controlling the air. Is that how I spell it? I forgot the U. Okay. Chain fighter traps is like the high level. It's like going from Calc 1 to Calc 3. This is an n-dimensional sophisticated trap. So I think Soren absolutely, I don't know, I don't think he invented it. This might be Robbie Plays Strategy Games. But honestly, it could be Bricata too. I don't remember. But the master, Soren, is who you watch to see this performed to perfection. Like, you're not going to do better than this. Like, you literally, I'm like convinced you cannot do better. Especially, I think it starts in 43. The idea of a chain fighter trap. You set a trap, the first plane comes, he gets ambushed, then it spots another vulnerable unit. And this can work very well if that vulnerable unit's next to the fighter that just attacked, because fighters can't attack more than once or defend more than once on the same turn. So then another plane comes, but boom, you have a fighter that was hidden from view, maybe even have an AA gun there, you ambush it, and you can set up your flak islands. Oh, I didn't even add that tactic. I need to add that. You can set up your flak islands in such a way that you can set off a chain where the planes come in, and I think you can go up to 5, but I might be wrong about that. It might be 4. Maybe Soren can correct me on this. I would love for him to, if he remembers off the top of his head, like the most perfect display of this. I think it was in 44. I would have to just completely rewatch to find the moment of perfection. But I remember watching him do Rommel, and it might have been in 44, and I just watched this insane sequence of events where the planes kept coming and they just kept falling into traps, and it was like a chain. You know, you're leaving breadcrumbs behind. You think you're about to get fed, and instead you come face to face with a mountain lion. So I would argue this. I should put this somewhere. I think this needs to be mastered by all ultimate mode players. Now, I don't think Bricata, Goose, and I have the skills to actually pull this off. So what I hope happens is that Soren gets to 1943. He knows that it's a little more complicated. There's more meat on planes, but I think he's going to try to do the same thing. He's got more experience now at this point. He's probably going to remember what failed last time and set up really nice fighter traps, and then we can try to mimic what he did on ultimate mode. And I think I remember when I was playing 43 in Ultimate mode, the Air Force was insane. Like, I just remember thinking to myself, it never ends, and I wasn't setting traps very well. There's forts everywhere, but Soren somehow can do it. Maybe he can find a way to manipulate the map and into his favor to get these chain fighter traps. I think that Soren Bricata, or I mean Goose Bricata and I are definitely, we have mastered the double fighter trap, where it's a chain of two. I think that all three of us are definitely on our A game at that level, but we have not hit the consistency with 3 or 4 planes. And I think it's theoretically possible to do 5, but I'm not sure. TA, tank ambushes. Okay, so offer a vulnerable unit to attack a tank. Offer a vulnerable unit to attack a tank AI. Let's see. But put anti-tank, infantry, or tank weapons in the path. Oh yeah. So the idea here is there's a natural path for the tank to attack. So this could be artillery and trucks or some other vulnerable unit, but the tank doesn't know that the path that it's going to take is going to get interrupted. And if you put the right unit there, it's an ambush. I've seen one shot of very strong units using this method. I think Deductor started it, but watch Soren do this to perfection over and over and over again. Talk about efficient killing of things. Soren, he knows how to do it, and I will be relying heavily on him. The issue is I can't remember things as well. He just knows. Like, he knows, well, this trap, I know where the tank is, I know it's going to move, and I know its natural path. So we're just going to park a unit here, and it's going to work. I think that at a basic level, Goose, Bricata, and I can do this. But at more sophisticated levels, Goose is ahead of me for sure. I will acknowledge that. I think his tank ambushes are way ahead of me. But he still has work to do, especially on Ultimate mode. You've just got to be incredibly good at this. Tank ambushes based on vision from unoccupied hex. This is not new, I think, but I don't remember. I think Bricata invented this, or Goose. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Bricata. Invented this, but Soren found. You know what? Did he get this from Bricata? Let me think about this. Bricata invented this. I think he did. My memory's a little fuzzy. I think it's at the. It was the same trap. This is displayed masterfully by Bricata at Calais and Soren at Calais. Wow, my memory's a little tricky. I'd have to look that up. But he showed this at Calais. I stupidly, for some reason, didn't do this because I'm a big stupid head, and it caused me more problems than necessary. But Calais is so easy that it didn't matter that I didn't use it. But the idea is you have an unoccupied hex that's a city that can see, despite the fact there's no unit in there, one around it. So what you do is you put something like an artillery piece next to the hex, and then you put an anti-tank or a tank unit or an infantry in the path that most naturally leads to this vulnerable unit, and then you got an ambush. And on Ultimate mode, I think you're going to need this. I think this is necessary for Ultimate mode. I think I should be on the lookout for using this more frequently. Maybe Goose as well. I can imagine in Africa Corps there might be circumstances where this could be used. Zone of control. Zoc. This is definitely a Deductor thing. He's the first person I can ever recall showing this and doing a really good job. Exploit terrain and hex features to limit AI movement such that AI gets stopped trying to attack vulnerable units. Everybody uses this now. This is a major weakness on my part, actually. I am not good at zone of control. It's pretty bizarre. I'm playing on ultimate mode, and zone of control, which is a basic feature of the game. You know, all the noobs know how to use this, and I screw this up all the time, and I don't use this enough. I'm better than I used to be, but uh, you need to master this to play on ultimate mode. Master this to play ultimate mode well. I get away with not doing this well because I can follow what other people have done, and I remember a lot about maps. If you watch me play a new map, I I would be a disaster with zone of control. I would be a total disaster, but it's a major weakness of mine. DS double Stuka. Uh, I think Bricata came up with this. I don't think Deductor did. I actually think Deductor should watch this video because I think he's going to be surprised by all the new tactics. Robbie plays strategy games. I don't know if he used this. He could let me know if he did. But Bricata came up with this, and Soren perfected it. You're going to see that combo come up over and over again. Hit a high quality target once on a turn, and then you're going to hit it that next turn with 2 Stukas. It will kill just about anything. If you're talking about anti-aircraft, you have to suppress it first. I have plans for this. I actually think I think a great example of this is from me, Richard, Streets of Moscow. Double Rommel. Yeah, double Rommel. I did this. Shows this used in the most convenient way, which trivialized the conquering of the Kremlin. So yeah, that Soren is much better at like consistently using this idea, but I find some unexpectedly creative ways. I showed what I did at that double Rommel playthrough in Streets of Moscow was unique. LBDA, leave bomber, level bomber, drain ammo. Get a level bomber to 4 stars, put 4 points of overstrength, and then attack the desired target. You're practically guaranteed to drain the ammo to 1. Deductor is the first person I know that showed this. And I remember, I think he showed it at Sevastopol. Yeah. See Sevastopol Assault. Yeah. And I was totally shocked by this. And this was probably the first time that I had been aware of the power of level bombers from Robbie Play strategy games, but I was skeptical. But when I saw Sevastopol Assault from Deductor, I was like, oh my god, level bombers are overpowered. And it's kind of the evolution of a level bomber has gotten to the point that Soren recognizes how powerful they are, and he's including more in his core, and I am including more. And you're seeing top level players recognize that the level bomber is a deceptively good unit, and it's partly because of this. Late war, level bombers are more effective than tactical bombers, in my opinion. Unless it's Rudel, but Rudel's special. Why is this wrong? Okay. SSU, surrendering special units. This might be unique to Africa Corps, I'm not sure, but Goose has shown that some units have a base strength of 1, but they obviously have more than 1 strength. So when you surrender those units with more than 1 base strength, massive prestige bonuses can be given. Necessary for extreme Africa Corps playthroughs. If I would love to try to do like a double Rommel's been done on Africa Corps, and Goose completely crushed it. I honestly, I highly recommend you watch him. I don't think I've ever seen Goose more in his element than when he was playing double Africa Corps, double Rommel Africa Corps. It was just like it's up there with some of the best stuff I've ever seen from Soren and Deductor. I mean, you could basically submit his entire Africa Corps campaign to the Panzer Corps Hall of Fame because it was something special. I'm hoping to eventually work with him on Africa Corps Ultimate Mode, but um, I'll be honest, I suck at Africa Corps and I need a lot of help. So, like, even on Rommel difficulty, I'm totally baffled by it. I find Africa Corps Rommel 10 times harder than almost anything in Grand Campaign. Like, just, like, almost every scenario in Africa Corps is completely baffling to me. It's very interesting why I struggle so much with it. Okay. Next tactic. Use Ox units or capital units to de-entrench targets. I don't think I invented it, but I'm definitely the one that uses this tactic a lot. I might as well be the person that invents it because other people don't do this that much. I actually have a great display of this at Dijon. Ultimate mode. Dijon. Ultimate mode. I use the char B to de-entrench a major hex. And the idea is to accelerate the de-entrenchment because sometimes you're pressed for time and you don't have a lot of options available to you, so you're willing to do anything and everything to make it happen. I am pretty unforgiving on my Ox units. I'm probably like the most merciless Stalin-like with my auxiliary units. I think it's necessary on ultimate mode. I should mention that. Key part of mastering ultimate mode. It's going to be interesting if Soren ever does decide to do ultimate mode. He is very protective of auxiliary units. Goose is generally very protective. Orcata is very protective. It's really amusing to me watching them play ultimate mode, and for some reason they don't see the auxiliary units as resources to be exploited. They're not very capitalist about these auxiliary units, or Stalin-esque. I see an auxiliary unit and I go, how can I get it killed in the most useful way possible? Like this cold-hearted, brutal calculation. Like it's, a bullet to my core is worth more to me than these auxiliary units. Their lives mean nothing to me. And I think that both Percata and Goose would have even better outcomes on Ultimate Mode if they just had that kind of attitude. Ox units are there to be killed. Kind of like conscripts in the Soviet army, right? And I think on Ultimate Mode, possibly even Manstein at times, it's a good idea to use them. And you actually saw, not for this tactic, but I saw Soren at Dijon use his Char B in combat and do useful things. FDES, Fighter De-Entrenchment Strategy. It kind of speaks for itself. I don't know who came up with this. I think it's just something people thought of over time. So just de-entrench things with your fighters. It accelerates the collapse. There's a good example of this. I should say Richard. I show this to Ultimate Mode. I showed this to great effect on this scenario, and it made it possible for me to get a decisive victory. So, like, it seems like everybody knows about this tactic. Yeah, but you know how to use this tactic to achieve great things. That's not so easy. How to protect a badly placed unit. I put my name here because outside of Goose, I, for some reason, just am really bad about placing units. I've gotten better, but on my double Rama playthrough, it's just kind of like, why are my units there? And I realize, like, oh, they're going to get massacred. So my backup plan is to throw an auxiliary unit around to distract the enemy. I think that, especially in times of speed, this can be useful. I should mention that. On Ultimate or Guderian, risks must be taken. And this is one way to cover your butt. Like you have to put that artillery piece up close and personal. A scout can see it, so you offer them an auxiliary unit for the upcoming tank to take care of. I don't remember anything off the top of my head, but I'm sure I have a lot of incompetence on display on the Rommel. BT bridge straps. Bricata was the one. Bricata or the Doctor, I don't remember. But basically, find a way to entice enemy units on the bridges, and then units on bridges are easy to kill. I think their defense stats are lower, if I'm not mistaken, cut in half or something. You can use tactical bombers to kill tanks on bridges. Fighters are very effective at attacking things on bridges. River traps. This is Bricata again. Maybe Deductor, but I think it was Bricata where I really saw river traps get used. Basically entice units onto river hexes. You can use this all the time. Put like a paratrooper is a great example. This can be put a paratrooper next to a river hex and entice a tank to cross and attack it. For some reason, paratroopers are magnets for this kind of thing. I think we're going to have to figure out how to do this on ultimate mode for the harder scenarios. River traps. Oh, whoops. I definitely put that in the wrong place. SA, surround airfield. If you put units adjacent to an airfield under AI control, any planes located in that airfield cannot get resupplied. I think people know that, but it's a tactic you should be aware of. I think we're using it all the time in ultimate mode, actually. SAR, scouting in rain. I think Deductor is the one that came up with this. Instead of just having your fighters stay at base, if you have an area that you know you're planning on attacking next, if it's a rain turn, just send them out there. Now keep in mind, this is if you're on the attack, be very careful on defense. You can use it on defense if it projects that there's rain next turn, but it's extremely dangerous because if there's not rain, you've just exposed your fighters. But if you're on the attack, it's guaranteed to work. You just send them out there, and especially if you got a spotting hero on a fighter, it's an amazing tactic. I don't remember when he used this, but he used it multiple times. If someone knows what scenario he used this, let me know. I think I've used this. I think Bricata has used this. Maybe even Goose. Double Stuka enemy targets based on bad weather. This is a variant of the double Stuka strategy. The idea is, let's say, I think I actually used this at Streets of Moscow. Yeah, see, Streets of Moscow, double Rommel. So I know turn 3 is guaranteed to be snow. I'd have to look up if turn 4 is guaranteed to be snow. I don't remember. But let's say turn 3 on Streets of Moscow, is guaranteed to be snow. What you can do is set it up so that Rudel is over the anti-aircraft gun around the Kremlin on turn 3. And then it flips over the next turn, and you hope for a clear weather day. And then you use your artillery to pound the anti-aircraft gun, and then you hit it with Rudel, and if that doesn't kill it, you hit it with another Stuka. And all the air defenses are gone. And there's no fighters around either. So suddenly, the Kremlin is extremely exposed to the air because of that. That's one of the best examples of using bad weather against the enemy. You actually want the bad weather. Exploit the bad weather to target the enemy. Okay. Moving fighters to an enemy airfield on a rain turn. Okay, this might be the Deductor as well. I think it is. I don't remember what scenario it was. I think it was early war. But he talked about he pointed out the tactic, but he didn't use it. But I am pretty sure Bricata did, but I don't remember what scenario it was. Deductor's like, it might be viewed by some as cheating to put your fighter on an enemy airfield where you know the plane is on a rain turn. Because what it means is the next turn is not a rain turn, and then you're just going to shoot down the fighter. On ultimate mode, I think it's perfectly fine to do that. I think should be used from time to time on higher difficulties to make it easier on the player to control the air. I don't have any ethical qualms about it. Okay, the APFT, the Auxiliary Paratrooper Fighter Trap. I do believe Soren is the one that invented this. Robbie plays strategy games. I don't remember him using it, but if I'm wrong, let me know. And what's the scenario? It was Kiev, wasn't it? C. Kiev Rommel. I think it was Kiev that he used an auxiliary paratrooper as bait to pull in fighters. And he didn't care how damaged those units were because they were not an important part of his strategy. I was very impressed when I saw this, and I was just kind of like, how in the hell have I not seen this before? And I suspect it's an advanced fighter trap. Very strong on any difficulty level, and necessary on ultimate. I think I did not do this on my ultimate Kiev because I forgot about it, and it wasn't until he must have used it recently because it suddenly like came to my mind. I don't know. I just forgot about it when I did Kiev, but it's an amazing trap, and we should definitely use them more. See Kiev Rommel. I think that's where that happened. PP. Yes, I love this acronym, and especially the description: paratrooper penetration. And no, I'm not willing to change the acronym or the description because you know it's a good description. So use your paratroopers to do deep drops behind enemy lines to secure hard-to-reach objectives. I believe Robbie is the first person to show this. Was it? I think it was C. Biasma Rommel. Now, he's the first person to do this. C. Richard Biasma, ultimate mode, and Dijon, ultimate mode, for great use of this idea. Almost perfect, but not quite. Great use of this idea. I think it's necessary, I should say that, get to know this tactic because you need it to even pretend to play on ultimate mode. You're not seeing Goose or Bricata complain about this tactic because ultimate mode is insane. You need to find creative ways around the Guderian issue, and this is it. And I remember just being shocked at how easily Moscow fell on Biasma when Robbie showed this. And I was like, this is changing the game. And it's awesome. Like, that was just an awesome thing. And I honestly am getting more and more sophisticated about paratrooper use. Bricata is getting more and more sophisticated. I should mention, you can use this to gain hard to reach capturable units. I actually have a ton of examples of that. See Soren Kharkov 43. See Richard Metaxas. Sorry. Metaxas line ultimate mode. In fact, that was so good. I think Goose copied it. I don't know if Bricata did. I think Bricata did as well. Actually, it wasn't even ultimate mode. It might have been ultimate. It might have been my double realm or ultimate mode. I don't remember. But I got a capturable unit that way. In fact, it's pretty frequent later in the war to use a paratrooper to just conveniently go scoop up your capturable unit. Just because you just don't have time. Like, the battles are too intense, there's too much going on. So remember this, paratrooper penetration, PP. DLBS, double level bomber strategy. This is a variant of the double Stuka strategy, but it's very different in application. And I think I'm gonna say I didn't invent it. I'm sure people were aware of it, but I feel like I have displayed it more than anyone else, and I have emphasized it more than anyone else. So you dedicate 2 level bombers to de-entrench and drain AI unit of ammo. Then when entrenchment is at 1 and ammo low, attack with your own unit to kick the enemy unit out. Great for getting objectives fast and on the cheap. See Dijon ultimate mode. I might be wrong about this. Maybe somebody else like explicitly was all in on this idea. However, I don't know if I see it used much. I like to use it as much as possible. It's especially useful for hard to reach objectives. Especially useful for Guderian or Ultimate Mode. Hey, yeah, when you're playing Ultimate Mode, you're willing to do anything to achieve success because it's that hard. Use planes to prevent a unit from getting reinforcements. Yeah. I mean, I don't know who came up with this, but it's used all the time. On a clear day, if there is a unit you can't place 3 ground units adjacent to, place an air unit above instead to prevent reinforcements. See anyone play Ibn Emil. Basically. Anyone playing this scenario is going to do that. Trucks to block hexes. If time is of the essence, move trucks to conveniently block hexes. This works especially well when you know an enemy unit cannot leave a major hex if no other available alien. Yeah, Ricotta showed C Poznan ultimate mode. He broke that map first, and the trick was he put the he put the truck in. He put a unit with a truck 8 hexes away by road to a major hex and needed a block. Now, my latest ultimate mode completely removed the need for that. Not to take away credit from Ricotta because he broke the map first, but I've reduced the RNG factor on the map to such a point that you can consistently get a decisive without using this trick. But he definitely came up with it, and it's useful for other scenarios. But that is like the classic example of how to use it. RT recon trick. You know, this is related to the major hex evacuation trick, but it's faster. Move recon, then unmove. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's another trick. Recon trick. This is from Goose. See entire Africa core playthrough. I don't know if there's a scenario he doesn't use it. So the idea is, and I don't know why no one else is using this, or why it's never been talked about. Robbie didn't do this. Deductor didn't do this. So I don't even know why this feature exists. But basically, if you have an attack with your recon, if you have movement points left, move it, and then make sure there's at least 1 movement point left, and then unmove it, and then you can resupply it. This is brilliant. It keeps up momentum with recon use, and basically, since this trick has been around, I don't have a problem with recon at all. Like, it's never going to run out of fuel because the recon isn't attacking every turn. Yeah, Goose, see entire Africa core playthrough. MSR, multi-surrender with recon. When enemy units pile up, move recon up to set up a surrender. Yeah, so you get that first unit surrendered, and then that recon has multi-move. You can move them up again and get another surrender. It's probably theoretically possible to do this 3 times, but it's a great way to keep your units in place without moving them out of strong positions to get multiple surrenders. don't know an example of this off the top of my head. I think on any higher difficulty level, this is needed from time to time. Let me know if you know a great example where this was used, with recon at full power. And the best part is you give mass attack bonus as well when you're doing that. RMHT, Recon Major Hex Trick. This is where you move the Recon onto a Major Hex, conquer it, and then move back to set up forced attacks. I don't know who came up with this. Deductor, Bricata? I don't know who came up with it, but see anyone play Chaotic, because it just gets used over and over again. AIH, avoid infantry in hills. This is like a general strategic point. On higher difficulty levels, tanks can eat them alive. Bricata found this out. C, Demyansk Pocket. I also ran into this issue, but he had a great example. He lost Wernsberger, a mountain unit in the hills. I think there must be something about initiative. Maybe the initiative is capped in the hills. I was really surprised to see it happen. He was really surprised to see it happen. You have to, on Mancine in ultimate mode, not do it. But that was on Rommel. So even on Rommel, any difficulty at that point, it's not a good idea. FT, Fortification Trick. Placing enemy units and fortification hexes can protect them from dangerous attacks, even at extreme difficulty levels. I probably didn't invent this. However, actually, you know what? I'm wrong. Deductor invented this. Deductor came up with this. Deductor C. Mogalev. I remember now. Mogalev. See his operation Begration. Some of the final scenarios he posted. There's like what, 4 scenarios of that? 3? And it was masterful use of fortification hexes. For masterful use of fortification hexes. This is totally on me for not using this trick before, because at any difficulty level it's useful. Required for ultimate mode. But yeah, I think you see the Deductor at his best when he's playing Operation Migration, and you're just like, yeah, he makes some really dumb like deployment decisions, but look at him masterfully save a disastrous situation. It was almost like you were there on the ground watching, the German units get rolled up, and you're watching this brilliant commander who knows everything's a disaster pull a fucking Napoleon out of his butt to save everything. And he has a great, I think it's Mogalev if he does this. It's just like you're expecting at any point he's gonna get beheaded, and somehow he escapes death. But he uses fortification hexes there to make it work. MAB, mass attack bonus. People know what that is. I feel like Deductor invented it, or at least talked about it the most. Any scenario you could see this in effect. Boat deployment trick, I think this is just a feature of the game, but a lot of people weren't aware of it. You have a boat next to a dock, but not land, so you think you have to move the boat, but you don't have to. You can press the E key and unload. Units without trucks can be flown on planes. This can accelerate the collapse of key objectives. C, my brilliant Vyazma ultimate mode. And to this day, it's one of my. I have so many magnum opuses. Opie might be the more accurate way to put that. I have so many scenarios where I have broken them in ways that I don't think the developers would have thought was possible. Sometimes my inner Napoleon actually comes out when I'm playing this game. You're going to see me fly Wernsberger out to help get a decisive victory on the map. You can use this in other scenarios, and Dijon. You can see Dijon coming up again. I flew a mountain troop on planes. Bridge engineers. Use them across otherwise impossible rivers to catch an enemy by surprise. Most brilliant oh, the most I have two displays of this. Both no, I have okay. C double Rommel and Miasma. In ultimate mode. Miasma. And I say to this day, I still have the two most brilliant displays of how to conquer Miasma, and the key is to have bridge engineers. I might be one of the last Panzer Corps players left in the universe that says I think bridge engineers have value. It's not every scenario, but I think they have value, and Miasma is when you see the most value out of one bridge engineer who's worth like 4 units. Because they set up a bridge and you can cross and do all kinds of fun stuff. Frozen ground, a clear trick. If you know the weather will clear up, entice enemy units onto frozen river hexes so next turn those units are vulnerable. I don't have a great example of this. I don't know of anyone that's actually used this very effectively. Maybe Robbie plays strategy games. If you know of someone, I just am aware of this. I think Deductor talked about it. I should probably say he talked about it, so he kind of invented it, but I don't remember if he used it very well. Defense heroes should be made into mountain units. This is like a strategic point. The reason is the high close defense values. See, I didn't invent this. Well, maybe. I get credit for this. See De Jong, ultimately. Don't use trucks on infantry unless you have SC infantry or grenadiers or pioneers with no movement hero. A lot of conditions there. This is another general strategic point. You're going to save on soft cap, prestige spending on elite replacements. Also skip half tracks. So if you don't have trucks on infantry, you can also fly them around on planes. Let's not forget that. However, if you do not have a movement hero on grenadiers or pioneers, I highly recommend that you get trucks. So a mix of trucks and no trucks is ideal, and SE infantry are likely to have trucks. And probably even with a movement hero, you would want a truck. Thick forest. Use thick forest terrain against the enemy. Units cannot be moved into thick forest with mobilization of some sort. This can protect exposed units. I think you can see this displayed. See Richard or Soren. Spoils of War. If you watch that, we use the thick forest against the enemy. And there's lots of other scenarios you can use the thick forest and stop mobility. I think there's an example of it in Falaise, or there's other examples. It's not like you can use this all the time, but there are times like Spoils of War where it's super convenient. Of course, infantry without trucks can move in. Keep that in mind. Use cloudy weather against the enemy fighter. Okay. Why is this tactic here? And what do you mean against the enemy fighter? I mean vision. Against the enemy fighter vision is what I should say. So, this tactic was invented by me on Spoils of War because I was having an issue where I didn't have the same core that Soren did. My units did not have the same experience that Soren's did, but I still wanted to execute his brilliant takedown of Spoils of War. So the trick was to set the seed so the first day was cloudy. So that way when the fighter came out to attack, it couldn't see my tank 2 hexes away. I imagine there might be a few other rare instances where this could be used, but I highly recommend this for Spoils of War. And I've never seen anyone go, cloudy weather can be used to your advantage for spotting purposes to avoid getting attacked. I mean, maybe someone said it before, but watch that playthrough where I talk about it at length. Use less useful units usefully. Use less useful units usefully. In case of need, use less useful units for battle for blocking. city hexes. I didn't need to say all that. That can spawn units. Soren, C. Very, very good idea. What he came up with. I think that we're going to see more of this. There's going to be scenarios where this is super convenient to do. It's a neat trick. Maybe not necessary for ultimate mode, but it'll make it better. MHU, minimize hero use. This is very strange. What the hell are you talking about? What drugs are you on? And I'm the only one that talks about this. This is very bizarre to me, and I don't know why I'm the only one that talks about this. But it's intuitively obvious to me why this should be an axiom. It's strategically obvious to me why this should be an axiom. And on higher difficulty levels, I think it's a must for balancing the core out to deal with these extreme conditions. And I have no idea why no one else talks about this. It baffles me, even though Soren alludes to it from time to time. So what are you talking about? What do you mean minimize hero use? It basically boils down to everyone loves the heroes, and we use them over and over and over and over again. But in the early war years, that's the last time you should be using these units. Or not the last time. That's like the least reasonable time to be using your superhero units. The war gets harder and harder. Why are you taking away kills and experience from other units that need it more than your superhero units? And you can see my entire ultimate mode playthrough. You're going to see that I purposely will leave Kesha behind. I will leave Olodir behind. I don't really have to do it with Lent so much, but from time to time I leave them behind. Lent is obviously going to get 3 heroes with no problem. But what happens is, I actually showed the stats on this on my previous video. Like, my infantry looked good on average when I am using Olodir all the time. Olodir had 700 kills after 1940. But the experience, it looks good. All the stats on average look good, but your units are often lagging behind on kill counts. So essentially, Olodir functions as an outlier that can deceive you on how well your infantry divisions are doing. So, like, statistically, it looks like I'm doing worse with infantry, but I can tell you that's not true at all. I'm actually doing better. It's just that, on average, it looks like I'm doing worse. It's kind of, I know it's weird. So, my units are distributing the kills. I got more kills distributed. And what this means is the infantry units are over 300 kills or close, and they're going to get a hero, and that they're setting themselves up to get a second hero faster. If you watch other people play any mode and they use Olodir too much, it takes their units too long to get the second hero. Because Olodir can kill 100 units in a scenario. Imagine if those 100 kills get distributed evenly among your core. This is also true of Kesha and other unit hero types. And I purposely underused Kesha, and this allowed my other Panzer IV to actually get an excellent hero, and that other Panzer has more kills than Kesha. And but they're very close. It's nice and balanced. I'm trying to give both of those units a chance to develop. And with this in mind, I would also point out you should be careful with early SC tanks. I don't think that you have to go hardcore in developing them. You want to get them a couple stars of experience, but you don't necessarily have to put the push. What the heck was I gonna say? You don't have to push them so hard that you're taking kills away from other units that need them, like an 88 gun. If you can kill it with the 88 gun, consider doing that instead of using your SE tanks. I'm just putting that out there. And I think I'm going to say something controversial. I think this is required to get the most out of Ultimate Mode. And this is counterintuitive. This is counterintuitive to players, but sit early hero units as much as you can. And I am not joking when I say that. And I have a feeling when I finish 41, you're going to start to see issues have cropped up. I think early war, it's really easy to deceive yourself about using Kesha and Oladir. And as the war progresses, you're suddenly wondering why you're playing with Oladir, who's already maxed out, and you got other units that need second heroes. But take my word on this. I think you should just pull back the hero usage and save them for when you need them. So FRT, full resupply trick in rain, get full resupply in city hexes. I think Goose pointed this out. I don't remember what scenario it was. It might have been Africa Corps. It's one of those scenarios. But I think in Africa Corps especially you should know about that, because there's resupply tricks. Or there's supply issues that are very severe. UT, use trains. Use trains to grab empty hexes and move slow moving units faster. C, WADs, ultimately. Honestly, I think it was the most efficient use of trains I've ever seen, and it allowed him to achieve great things on that scenario. The AAAT trick. Okay, so I don't. Okay, yeah, this trick. This is crazy good. Did I say this is necessary? On any difficulty level, this is necessary. And especially so for ultimate. Okay, so the trick. You park an auxiliary bomber over a major hex, and air defenses will focus on that auxiliary bomber. What this means is you can take your super expensive bombers and hit whatever you want to hit in the area, whether ships or armor or whatever, and you know that the anti-aircraft guns are not targeting them. For Kata, I think it was Sevastopol, it was Sevastopol, a siege. Sevastopol siege. So I think he gets credit for noticing something, and then I get credit for confirming that this really does work this way. And Richard C. Spoils a War. I use this there. Now, a couple caveats with this. If you have conquered the major hex, then the AA gun will do whatever it wants. Just so you know. So this is an extremely powerful trick, and it makes it much easier to conquer major hexes that are otherwise difficult. Just something to know. I highly recommend you study this, look at those videos to see what I'm talking about, and incorporate it into his play. If the unit is damaged. POU, planes over units. This trick entices units to move away often to less favorable positions. Great against AA and artillery guns, less likely to work if the unit is damaged. Don't know who invented it, but C. Soren at Dijon. I don't. If he could add some comments on this, are there any like restrictions on this? Is this only tied to certain types of units? Does this not work on passive artillery pieces? How this is a trick I wish was explored a bit more. I think it has to be undamaged. Less likely to work if the unit is damaged. I don't know about this. I want to know more about this. But Dijon shows a great example of this, and it helped them conquer a hex. I wish I had known about it. I think I knew the concept, but I had never seen it executed at that scenario, and I had totally forgotten about it. Suppress a unit, but not all the way down to 1. Okay, so why are you doing this? You want to suppress a unit, and you want to get some damage in. You want to kill a unit outright, essentially. But if you suppress a unit, de-entrench, suppress, de-entrench a unit, but not all the way, down to 1 entrenchment. This trick is to prevent a unit from retreating, so your neighboring units can attack more than once. So often you've already moved units adjacent to a city hex you're trying to conquer. So the best way to do this is you de-entrench a unit to 3 or 2, and then you attack it. It's going to be a little suppressed. It might go well, it might go poorly. Then you can hit it with more suppression, and then kill it with another infantry unit. And this does carry the risk of rugged defense, but if the unit's at least partially suppressed, the risk is reduced on pushback. And Bricata does this. Just watch him on anything. Ultimate mode. He really does this stuff a lot on ultimate mode. I have also been incorporating this trick more and more in my playthroughs. Soren doesn't do it because he wants perfect suppression. He wants to reduce the RNG to 0 with counterattacks against his units. So it'd be very interesting to see what he would do in ultimate mode where this luxury doesn't exist. I would recommend doing this tactic. So you're going to face some risk, but it's reduced. And it's a great way of killing a unit instead of pushing it back. So this is what I've got going. I'm going to post this video. Let me know what you think. Add any comments you want. I want to put this in the description. Feel free to copy it and paste it somewhere and completely reformat it and redo it and add in your own comments. And you could post it as a comment. If you want to email it to me instead, here's my email. Like, if you want to email instead of like posting a super long comment, I don't even know if you can post comments that long. You can email an update on this. There are tactics I have forgotten about as well that you can add. Now, don't give me Panzer Corps 2 tactics, because Panzer Corps 2 is totally different in a lot of ways. So just Panzer Corps 1 tactics. And if you have suggestions on how to make this better, let me know what you think of my acronyms, or if there's better ways of describing this 5-page document. But I'm trying to create like an appendix, isn't right? A compendium of tactics, and this will probably, I could imagine this document morphs into like optimal strategies for each level of difficulty. So there's 5 particularly challenging level of difficulties. And it may also morph into, we may get into discussions about Africa Corps, which is the other popular campaign in Panzer Corps. Like Goose could very easily add like a dozen tactics just from Africa Corps. And you might end up having like, I might have to create section headers. I have my appendix of all the lists of tactics, and then I have a section that's for Grand Campaign East, a section for Grand Campaign West, a section for Africa Corps, and it could expand. There might be new tactics and so on. One thing I haven't done is added a bunch of tactics about Grand Campaign West, and in my opinion, you need to learn about these tactics, especially in the higher difficulty levels, because it's so unforgiving. One thing I am hoping, it'll never happen now that I think about it. Soren is going to be spending the next year doing Manstein, but I would love to see Soren tackle Grand Campaign West. It would be the most challenging thing he's ever done, I suspect, because you're handicapped by prestige, you're handicapped by experience, you're handicapped by the air units being a lot stronger than West, and you don't have as strong of an air force, and so his creative exact brain, I wonder what would happen. I'd be perfectly willing. I need to add Grand Campaign West tactics that he could consult before he tried it. But I feel like there's things about those maps that are unexplored, because currently the only people who have shown anything on Grand Campaign West is Night Phoenix and myself. And now we have Goose, who's doing it on Ultimate Mode. Oh, and Robbie Plays Strategy Games, who has the only completed Grand Campaign West. He might have some tactics from that campaign, I don't remember, and I think it's important because Grand Campaign West does not play at all like the East. They are so different from each other, it honestly feels like a different game, and you need a different part of your brain. You get punished for things that are standard operating procedure in East. So you have to rewire your brain to play that scenario. So this is this document that I'm starting. I have no idea. This might become very, very large, especially if I can get people putting comments or suggestions. So that's my email if you want to do it that way, because I don't think you could post this entirely as a comment. So until next time, Richard out.